Hi, Jim Kiernan here, founder of Cops for Kamala. For the past few days, we've been talking about why Kamala Harris should be elected president because she supports and backs the blue. And why Donald Trump should not be president because he does not support law enforcement. The facts are the facts. This bombastic outcry of Kamala Harris wants to defund the police. Come on, stop it. Nobody wants to defund the police. That's just a ridiculous statement that just keeps being perpetuated over and over and over because they have nothing else to say. And that the floodgates are open and the immigrants are coming in and Kamala Harris is letting them come in to eat your dogs and cats. Ridiculous. The whole thing is getting way out of hand and way ridiculous. The bottom line is Kamala Harris is a supporter of the police and is a supporter of law and order. Before I go any further into today's discussion, I want to ask everyone a favor. Anybody that views this video, I would like you to make a comment. And in the comment, I'd like to know if you have any questions for me regarding Cops for Kamala and why I believe the police should be supporting Kamala Harris. And also, if you think there are other topics that we should discuss, please put them in the comments section. Now, I'm going to do something a little different today because I was looking up two things. One was the amount of Republicans. These are not just, common Republicans. These are big, high-ranking Republicans that are backing Kamala Harris for president. And I also looked at something, I just thought it was just an interesting point, and that's the number of books that have been written about Donald Trump. There are over 60 of them, over 60 books written about his presidency, and not good. Let me give you some titles because I think they say a lot in the title. I'm going to read the titles real quick. Stick with me. Unmasking the Presidency, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump, Fear, Nightmare Scenario, Unhinged, Siege, At War with Ourselves, Donald Trump and His Assault on Truth, Running Against the Devil, Trumpocalypse, Bearing Witness to America's Worst President, The Cult of Trump, Dereliction of Duty, Fire and Fury, Trump's America, Destroying the Foundation of American Values, Hiding in Plain Sight, The Invention of Donald Trump and the Erosion of America, A Clear and Present Danger, Confidence Man, The Divider, The Spiritual Danger of Donald Trump, Democracy Under Fire, Donald Trump, the tyrant in the White House, The Cost of Chaos. It's even worse than you think, what the Trump administration is doing to America. These books were written by, a lot of them, by people that worked for Donald Trump. They worked in his White House. They saw firsthand. And the others were written with an extraordinary amount of interviews with people who did work for Donald Trump. So if you just listen to those titles, the man is a current danger to our democracy, and there's no other way around it. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and I have here, is the amount of Republicans who oppose Donald Trump. And I'm going to go over some of those too, because I think it's interesting. Just to think about this. This has never happened in history before. No, nobody has ever had this many people that were attached to an administration now say he's a clear and present danger and cannot be elected again. These are people that supported him and worked for him. Let's start with the most obvious. His former vice president, Mike Pence. Now, Mike Pence didn't say he's going to vote for Kamala Harris, but he did say he's not going to vote for Donald Trump. Now we can get into cabinet officials. John Bolton, National Security Advisor. and ambassador to the United Nations. Dan Coates, Director of National Intelligence. Mark Esper, U.S. Secretary of Defense. John Kelly, White House Chief of Staff, Secretary of Homeland Security. H.R. McMaster, U.S. National Security Advisor. These are cabinet-level officials. These are individuals that worked in Donald Trump's cabinet. Some people say, oh, they were fired. No, they weren't fired. They just were not selected by Trump because they spoke out and stopped him from overthrowing the United States government. That's why they spoke out. Here are some other White House officials. Ty Cobb, Special Counsel in the White House. Alyssa Griffin, White House Director of Strategic Communications. Stephanie Grisham, White House Communications Director. Cassidy Hutchinson, Executive Assistant to the White House Chief of Staff. Sarah Matthews, Deputy White House Press Secretary. Omarosa Newman, Communications Director of the Office of Public Liaison. Anthony Scaramucci, White House Communications Director. Mark Short, Chief of Staff to the Vice President. Those are White House officials. They worked every day in the White House and witnessed Donald Trump's abuse of power and absolutely had no concept of what was going on in world affairs. Some other executive branch officials that do not support Donald Trump's election. Greg Brower, he's the Assistant Director of the FBI. James Comey, a name that we all know. Sophia Kissinger, Department of Homeland Security. Andrew McCabe, Director of FBI. Elizabeth Newman, Department of Homeland Security, Assistant Secretary to Counterterrorism and Threat Prevention. Richard Spencer, U.S. Secretary of the Navy. Miles Taylor, Chief of Staff, the United States Department of Homeland Security. Olivia Troy, Homeland Security and Counterterrorism Advisor. William Webster, Chief of the Homeland Security Advisory Council, Director of Central Intelligence, Director of the FBI, Judge of the U.S. Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit. That's big. That's big. That's a man who not only is not voting for Donald Trump, he's voting for Kamala Harris. And I didn't even mention a few of the others that are also voting for Kamala Harris. Here's a great one. You all heard this. You all saw it in the news. Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney, one of the biggest Republicans out there, and conservatives. Dick Cheney is from the school of Ronald Reagan. Dick Cheney's from the school of George H.W. Bush. Dick Cheney is about as red could be in the conservative movement. He is voting for Kamala Harris. You want to know what he said? Let me tell you what Dick Cheney said in his endorsement. This is a quote from Dick Cheney. In our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. I want to read that again. You have to listen to that again. This is Dick Cheney saying this. This is a man who's been involved in intelligence, who's involved in the Oval Office. This is a man whose integrity was never questioned. And here's what he said, and I'm going to repeat it again. In our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, if you can't hear that, if you Trump supporters out there, especially you police officers, and you can't hear that and understand how dangerous this is, you don't have to support all the policies of Kamala Harris. Many of us don't. But she's not a threat to our democracy. She is not a threat to our democracy. She will work with us. She will work with the people. Other people that do not support Donald Trump's re-election, William Cohen, former U.S. Secretary of Defense. John Danforth, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Stuart Gerson, Acting U.S. Attorney General. Alberto Gonzalez, U.S. Attorney General. Chuck Hagel, U.S. Secretary of Defense. Carla Anderson Hills, U.S. Trade Representative. Pete Keisler, U.S. Attorney General. Ray LaHood, U.S. Secretary of Transportation. John Negroponte, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State. William Howard Taft IV, Acting U.S. Secretary of Defense. Christine Todd Whitman, Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Robert Zoellick, U.S. Trade Representative. I have 14 pages of these people. I have 14 pages of these high-ranking Republicans who have worked hand in hand with Donald Trump, not endorsing him for president, saying that he is not fit, not qualified, and a danger to our democracy. I'm not going to bother reading all of them because there's just too many of them. I can go to U.S. Senators, House of Representative people, state officials, governors of state, Republican governors, Republican senators, Republican House of Representative members. These are not Democrats or liberals just trying to upset the apple cart. These are people that are putting country before party. These are people that recognize that they are Republicans and they want to rebuild the Republican Party like Ronald Reagan had it and George W. Bush had it and George H.W. Bush had it and John McCain had it. The only way you're going to rebuild that Republican Party is if Donald Trump is not the president of the United States. He has to be voted down in huge numbers. He has to understand, because let's face it, he's going to start claiming the same old stuff again. Oh, they cheated. Oh, all the immigrants were voting. Oh, the people that are dead were voting. He's going to do all the same nonsense he did, and he'll have his sycophants lined up, the Pillow Man and all the other fools lined up. And, of course, you can't count on the press helping you out with this, because to the press, this is stuff that they could use in their press every day, in their papers. So they just keep on putting it in there. So he has to be really beaten soundly. And I implore all you people out there that support law and order, please, it's time to turn the page. Support the prosecutor, not the criminal. Elect Kamala Harris for president. Just a quick reminder, again, in the comment section, if you wouldn't mind putting in maybe a question you may have for me, or maybe something that you would like me to bring up in future shows. Thank you very much.